Park sat alone in the corner of a dirty bar on station. The drink in front of him was cheap and tasted like engine fuel, but he did not care. He had been without work for 2 weeks. His credits were running low. Soon he would need to find a job or starve. The station was busy today. Aliens of all shapes and sizes walked through the corridors outside. Some had scales, some had fur, some looked like nothing had ever seen before. Humans were rare here. Most species thought of them as children playing in a galaxy they did not understand. Was 28 years old. He had served in Earth's Stellar Marine Corps for 6 years before they threw him out. His crime was simple. He refused to follow an order that would have killed innocent people. The military called it disobedience. He called it being human. Now he worked as a mercenary, a gun for hire. It was not honorable work, but it kept him alive. His communicator buzzed. A message appeared on the small screen. It was from a security agency he had registered with months ago. Urgent job. Delegation needs temporary guard. Previous security incapacitated. High pay. Report to Docking Bay 7 immediately. Stared at the message. They were one of the oldest species in the galaxy. They were tall, elegant, and beautiful in a cold way. Their skin was silver like moonlight. Their eyes glowed soft blue. They lived for thousands of years and looked down on younger species like humans. Working for them would be difficult. They would treat him like dirt, but the pay was good and he needed the money. He finished his drink and stood up. Docking Bay 7 was on the rich side of the station. The floors were clean here. The lights were bright. Felt out of place in his worn jacket and old boots. The ship was magnificent. It looked like a piece of art rather than a spacecraft. Smooth silver lines curved like flowing water. Had never seen anything so beautiful. An official met him at the entrance. The alien was tall, almost 2 meters, with perfect silver skin and cold blue eyes. He looked at the way someone might look at an insect. "You are the human?" the official asked. His voice was musical but carried no warmth. "Park, security contractor." "I am advisor. You will guard Princess during her stay on the station. Our regular guards have fallen ill from a human virus. You will do until they recover." Notice the disgust in the advisor's voice when he said human virus. He did not react. He had heard worse. "Understood. Where is the princess?" "You will meet her shortly. First, you must understand the rules. You will not speak to the princess unless spoken to. You will not touch the princess under any circumstances. You will remain at least 3 meters away at all times. You will not look directly into her eyes. Is this clear?" "Crystal clear." Advisor led him through the ship. Every corridor was beautiful. Every surface was smooth and perfect. Felt like a stain on a white cloth. They stopped at a large door. It opened silently, revealing a room filled with soft light and flowing fabrics. And there, standing by a window that showed the stars, was Princess. She was young for only 200 years old, which was like early 20s for humans. Her silver skin seemed to glow from within. Her hair was long and white like fresh snow. Her eyes were the blue had ever seen. She was the most beautiful creature he had ever encountered. "Princess," advisor said, bowing low, "this is the temporary guard, a human." Princess turned. Her eyes found, and something strange happened. Instead of disgust or dismissal, curiosity filled her face. "A human," she said softly. Her voice was like wind chimes. "I have never spoken to a human before." "And you need not start now," Princess said quickly. "He is merely here for security. He is not worth your attention." Ignored him. She took a step toward, studying him like he was a fascinating book. "You are smaller than I expected, and your skin is so colorful. Is it true that humans only live for 80 years?" Was not supposed to speak unless spoken to by her. She had spoken to him. He decided that counted. "Some of us live longer, some shorter. We make the most of what we have." "Fascinating," whispered. "So little time, how do you bear it?" We stay busy. A small smile touched her lips. It transformed her face from cold beauty to something warm and alive. I think I like you human. Princess looked horrified. Please do not encourage him. But was already walking away, gesturing for to follow. He fell into step behind her, keeping the required 3 meters of distance. The next few hours were simple. Attended meetings with trade officials. She smiled and nodded and said the right things, stood in corners and watched everything. He noticed that the guards who accompanied them were weak and pale. The virus was affecting them badly. Their reflexes were slow. Their attention wandered. He also noticed something else. A small drone, barely visible, hovering near the ceiling of the meeting room. It moved when moved. It watched her constantly. Said nothing. He tracked the drone with his eyes while keeping his face blank. Someone was watching the princess. Someone with bad intentions. That night, after retired to her quarters, reported to advisor. There is a surveillance drone following the princess. I spotted it in 3 separate locations today. Waved his hand dismissively. Impossible. Our security systems would detect any unauthorized drones. Your security systems are good, but whoever sent that drone is better. You are seeing things, human. Perhaps the stress of being among your betters is affecting your simple mind. Felt anger rise in his chest. He pushed it down. I am telling you what I saw. Someone is planning something. The princess is in danger. Stepped close. His blue eyes were cold as ice. Listen carefully, human. You are nothing here. You are a temporary tool. When our guards recover, you will be discarded and forgotten. Do not pretend to understand things beyond your primitive comprehension. He turned and walked away. Stood alone in the corridor. He thought about leaving. He thought about taking his pay and walking away from these arrogant aliens who treated him like garbage. But then he remembered the princess's smile, the curiosity in her eyes, the way she had looked at him like he was a person, not a pest. He would stay and he would watch. Because something bad was coming. He could feel it in his bones. The grand atrium of station was the most beautiful place had ever seen. Crystal pillars rose toward a ceiling painted with stars. Fountains of light danced in the air. Hundreds of aliens in expensive clothes talked and laughed and made deals worth millions of credits. Princess stood at the center of it all, surrounded by admirers. She wore a dress that seemed made of liquid silver. Her white hair was arranged in an elegant style that must have taken hours. She smiled and nodded at everyone who approached her. Watched from the shadows near a marble pillar. He had been awake for 36 hours. His eyes were tired, but his mind was sharp. The surveillance drone had not returned, but that made him more worried, not less. Something was wrong. He could feel it. The guards stood in a loose circle around the princess. They looked better today, but still weak. Their movements were slow. Their eyes were dull. The virus had taken more from them than they wanted to admit. Commander spoke through earpiece. She was the head of the princess's guard, still stuck in the medical bay, monitoring everything through cameras. Human report, anything unusual? Nothing yet, replied quietly. But the guards are too slow. If something happens, they will not react in time. They are warriors. They have trained for centuries. Training means nothing if your body cannot keep up. Commander was silent for a moment. Just watch. Do not interfere unless absolutely necessary. Did not respond. He kept his eyes on the crowd. Princess broke away from her admirers and walked toward a window that showed the stars outside. She looked tired. The constant smiling and talking was exhausting her. Moved along the wall, keeping her in sight. He was supposed to stay 3 meters away, but the crowd was thick. He drifted closer without realizing it. Noticed him. She turned her head slightly, and the corner of her mouth lifted. You look as bored as I feel, she said softly, so only he could hear. I am working, princess. So am I, but my work involves pretending to care about trade agreements, she sighed. I would rather hear more about your planet. Tell me about rain again. Felt something warm in his chest. Over the past 2 days, had found moments to talk to him. She asked endless questions about Earth, about oceans and mountains and cities full of people, about human food and human music and human love. She was lonely, he realized, surrounded by people but truly alone. Perhaps later, princess, when you are safe. Safe, she laughed quietly. I have been safe my entire life. Sometimes I wonder what it feels like to be in real danger. At that exact moment, every light in the grand atrium went dark. Moved before his mind caught up with his body. 200 years of human evolution, designed for survival on a dangerous planet, took over completely. He grabbed and pulled her behind the marble pillar. She gasped in surprise, but he clamped a hand over her mouth. Quiet, he whispered, do not move. In the darkness, he heard chaos, people screaming, bodies falling, energy weapons firing with sharp hissing sounds. The guards were shouting, confused. Their analytical minds needed time to process the situation, time they did not have. His eyes adjusted to the darkness. Human eyes were good at this. Millions of years of hunting at night had made them so. He saw 3 figures moving through the crowd. They wore active camouflage suits that made them nearly invisible, but nearly was not completely. Caught the shimmer of their movements, the slight blur where they passed. Assassins, professional ones. One of them was heading straight for the pillar. Pushed down to the floor. Stay here, do not move for any reason. He stepped out from behind the pillar. The assassin did not see him coming. Humans were supposed to be blind in the dark. Humans were supposed to freeze in fear during ambushes. Humans were supposed to be weak. This human was none of those things. Hit the assassin from the side. His fist connected with the creature's throat. The camouflage suit flickered and died, revealing a gray-skinned alien with black eyes. Did not recognize the species. He did not care. The assassin had a knife. Turned, and the blade meant for his heart sliced across his back instead. Pain exploded through his body. He ignored it. He grabbed the assassin's arm and twisted. Bones snapped. The knife fell, caught it and buried it in the assassin's chest. One down. The second assassin appeared from nowhere, firing a plasma pistol. Dove and rolled. The shot missed him by centimeters, burning his jacket. He came up throwing the dead assassin's knife. It spun through the air and caught the second killer in the eye. The alien dropped without a sound. 2 down. Where was the third? Heard scream. He turned and saw the final assassin standing over her, a glowing blade raised to strike. Time seemed to slow down. The blade began its descent towards neck. Did not think, he ran. He threw himself between the blade and the princess. The weapon bit deep into his shoulder, scraping bone. He grabbed the assassin with both hands and pulled them away from. They fell together, rolling across the floor, was bleeding badly now. His vision was going dark at the edges, but he kept fighting. He got his hands around the assassin's throat and squeezed. The alien struggled, clawed at his face, tried to reach another weapon, held on. Then he noticed the device strapped to the assassin's chest, blinking lights, a countdown. A bomb. With the last of his strength, grabbed and curled his body around hers. He pressed her against the floor and covered her completely with himself. The explosion was deafening. Heat and force washed over them, felt his back burning, felt pieces of metal hitting his body, felt pain beyond anything he had ever experienced. But was beneath him, safe, untouched. He had done his job. The lights came back on. Security teams rushed into the atrium. Medical drones flew toward the wounded. People were crying and shouting and calling for help. Lay on the floor, trembling, staring up at the human who had saved her life. His blood was everywhere. His eyes were closed. His body was burned and broken, but he was still curled around her, still protecting her. Even unconscious, his arms held her gently, keeping her safe from a danger that had already passed. "Help him!" screamed. Tears ran down her silver cheeks. "Someone help him!" Medical drones surrounded them. Guards finally arrived, too late to matter. Advisor pushed through the crowd, his face pale with shock. Commander's voice came through the communication system, broken with emotion. The human saved her, alone in 30 seconds. Held's hand as they loaded him onto a medical transport. His blood was warm on her fingers. His face was peaceful, like he was only sleeping. "Do not die," she whispered. "Please, you cannot die." Above the station, a magnificent ship dropped out of hyperspace. The royal flagship of the Empire. The Empress had arrived. And she would have questions about the human who saved her only daughter. Opened his eyes and did not recognize where he was. The ceiling above him glowed with soft golden light. The air smelled clean, like flowers after rain. He was lying on something softer than any bed he had ever known. He tried to sit up. Pain shot through his body. He fell back with a groan. A doctor appeared beside him. She was tall and elegant, with silver skin and calm blue eyes. She pressed something against his arm, and the pain faded to a dull ache. "Do not move," she said. Her voice was gentle, not cold like the others. "Your injuries were severe. You should be dead." "How long?" His voice was rough, broken. 3 days. You have been sleeping while we repaired your body." The doctor studied a floating screen filled with data. "I must admit, human biology is remarkable. Your cells regenerate faster than our models predicted. Your pain tolerance is beyond anything in our records. When we operated on your shoulder, you woke up. You were conscious for the entire procedure." Remembered fragments, bright lights, voices speaking in a language he did not understand, pain that felt like fire. "Where am I?" "The royal flagship Eternal Dawn. We are traveling to the doctor paused. "The Empress wishes to see you when you are ready." Closed his eyes. The Empress, the most powerful being in the Empire, the mother of the princess he had saved. This was either very good or very bad. 2 more days passed, grew stronger. He learned to walk again, then to move without pain. The medical technology was incredible. Wounds that should have taken months to heal closed in hours. On the 3rd day, guards came to his room. "The Empress summons you," one said. "Follow us." Followed. The flagship was enormous. Corridors stretched for what seemed like kilometers. Every surface was decorated with patterns that seemed to move and shift. Felt like he was walking through a dream. They stopped at massive doors made of some material that looked like frozen starlight. The doors opened silently, revealing the throne room. It was designed to make visitors feel small. The ceiling was impossibly high. The walls were lined with statues of ancient rulers. At the far end, on a throne of crystal and light, sat Empress. She was beautiful in a terrifying way. Her silver skin was flawless. Her white hair floated around her head like a living thing. Her eyes glowed brighter than any had seen. She looked ageless, eternal, like a goddess carved from moonlight. Walked forward. He did not bow. He was not, and he would not pretend to be. The Empress watched him approach. Her expression revealed nothing. "Park," she said. Her voice filled the room without seeming loud. "The human who saved my daughter." "I did my job, Your Majesty." "Your job was to guard her. You did much more than that." The Empress leaned forward slightly. "I have watched the recordings. You killed 3 assassins in less than 30 seconds. You used your body as a shield against an explosion. You should have died." "I did not." "No, you did not." A long pause. "Do you know what you have done?" Said nothing. He waited. "Among my people, a life debt is sacred. It is the oldest law of our civilization. When someone saves a life through their own blood and suffering, a bond is created. This bond cannot be ignored. It cannot be bought or sold. It must be honored. I do not need payment, Your Majesty. A simple thank you is enough. The Empress almost smiled. Almost. You misunderstand. This is not about payment. This is about honor. My daughter's life was saved by your sacrifice. If I simply give you credits and send you away, I shame myself, my daughter, and my entire house. She stood from her throne. You will remain with us, as guardian to my daughter, until the debt is repaid or you choose to leave. Felt the floor shift beneath him. This was not what he expected. Your Majesty, I am not qualified. I am just a human, a former soldier with nothing to my name. Your daughter deserves better protection than I can offer. My daughter's regular guards failed her. 50 trained warriors could not do what you did alone. The Empress descended the steps from her throne. She stopped directly in front of, up close. She was even more intimidating. You have proven that you will die for her without hesitation. That is the only qualification that matters. The court will not accept this. A human guarding the princess. They will call you mad. Let them. The Empress's eyes burned with cold fire. I am Empress. My word is law, and my word says you will stay. Behind a curtain at the side of the throne room, Princess watched in silence. Her heart was pounding. She had never seen anyone speak to her mother this way. Humans were supposed to tremble before the Empress. They were supposed to bow and scrape and agree to everything. But stood straight, he looked her mother in the eyes. He argued as an equal. It was the most amazing thing had ever witnessed. I accept, said finally, temporarily. I will stay until your guards recover fully. Then we can discuss the future. That is acceptable. The Empress turned away. Quarters will be prepared for you. You will have access to training facilities, weapons, and anything else you require. My daughter's safety is now your responsibility. Nodded, he turned to leave. Human, the Empress's voice stopped him. Why did you do it? You could have run, you could have hidden. Why did you risk your life for someone you barely knew? Thought about the question. He thought about the princess's smile, her curiosity, the loneliness in her eyes that matched the loneliness in his own heart. Because it was the right thing to do, he said simply, and because she looked at me like I was a person. Not many people do that. He walked out of the throne room. The Empress watched him go. For the first time in centuries, she did not know what to think. This human was different, unexpected, dangerous in ways she could not quite understand. Behind the curtain, wiped tears from her eyes. She did not know why she was crying. She only knew that something had changed. The human was staying, and somehow that felt like the beginning of something important. In the corridors of the ship, whispers were already spreading. A human in the royal guard, a human protecting the princess. Some said it was an insult to honor. Others said it was a sign of the Empress's wisdom. A few, very quietly, said it was an opportunity. If the human could be removed, the princess would be vulnerable again. And there were those who wanted the princess dead. The game had only just begun. 3 months had passed since arrived at the imperial palace. 3 months of stares, whispers, and thinly veiled insults. 3 months of learning to survive in a world that did not want him. The palace was magnificent. Towers of crystal rose toward purple skies. Gardens filled with plants that sang when the wind blew. Rivers of light flowed through the streets instead of water. It was beautiful beyond description. But beauty could not hide the ugliness beneath. The court hated. They smiled at him with cold eyes. They spoke to him in tones dripping with contempt. They accidentally gave him wrong directions, spoiled food, and quarters with broken temperature controls. He endured it all. Every morning he trained with the warriors. They were elegant fighters, their movements like dance. Centuries of practice had made them technically perfect. But perfection had made them predictable. Fought differently. He fought dirty. He fought desperate. He fought like a human who had grown up in poverty, who had survived war, who had nothing to lose. At first the warriors laughed at him. His form was ugly. His movements were wasteful. He had no grace. Then he started winning. He beat them by being unpredictable, by changing tactics mid-fight, by refusing to give up even when he was outmatched. The warriors could not understand it. They had trained for centuries. How could a human with 30 years of life defeat them? "You cheat," one warrior accused after threw sand in his eyes and swept his legs. "I survive," replied. "That is all that matters." The princess watched these training sessions. She sat on a balcony above the training grounds, pretending to read or work on her studies. But her eyes always found their way too. She started requesting him specifically for her outings. At first, it was just official duty. Then it became something else. They talked during walks through the gardens. She asked about Earth, about humanity, about all the things her tutors had never taught her. He told her about rain falling on city streets, about the smell of food cooking in market stalls, about his mother who had died when he was young but whose laugh he still remembered. "Your life sounds so full," said one evening as they walked beside a river of light. "So many experiences in such a short time." "We have no choice. Our lives are brief, so we pack them with as much living as possible." "Is that why humans feel so much? I have read that your emotions are intense." Laughed softly. "We feel everything deeply. Joy, sorrow, anger, love, sometimes all at once. It can be overwhelming." "It sounds wonderful." His voice was wistful. "Emotions are muted, controlled. We live for thousands of years, so we learn to feel slowly, carefully. Sometimes I wonder if we have forgotten how to truly feel at all." Looked at her. In the soft glow of the light river, she seemed almost fragile. Not the cold princess everyone saw, but a lonely girl trapped in a golden cage. "You feel things," he said quietly. "I can see it in your eyes." She looked away quickly. "You should not say such things. It is not proper." "I have never been proper." She laughed. It was a real laugh, warm and surprised. It transformed her face into something beautiful beyond words. Not far away, Lord watched them with hatred burning in his heart. Was a noble of ancient blood. He had planned to marry the princess for decades. Through her, he would gain power. Through her, he would eventually control the empire. But now this human, this insect, stood in his way. The princess looked at the human in ways she had never looked at. She laughed with the human. She sought his company. It was intolerable. The challenge came during a formal court gathering, approached in front of hundreds of watching nobles. "Human," he said loudly, "I challenge you to a duel of honor. You have insulted the court with your presence. You have shamed us by standing beside the princess. This must be answered." The court fell silent. Everyone watched. Looked at calmly. "I have insulted no one. I have done only what the Empress commanded." "Then let the Empress's command be tested. Face me in combat. If you win, your place here is earned. If you lose, you leave forever." This was a trap. Duels were formal, ritualized, had trained in this art for 500 years. No human could match that experience. But could not refuse. To refuse would be to admit weakness. It would prove that he did not belong. "I accept," he said. The duel took place in the grand arena the next day. Thousands gathered to watch. The Empress sat on a raised platform, her face unreadable. Princess sat beside her, pale with worry. Entered first, dressed in traditional dueling robes. He moved like water, like music, like everything beautiful and deadly. Entered in his simple training clothes. He carried a standard sword, nothing special. He looked small and plain compared to the magnificent lord. The signal was given. The duel began. Attacked with perfect form. His blade danced through patterns that had been refined for. Each movement was precise, elegant, beautiful. Did not try to match him. He could not. Instead, he did something no one would ever expect. He attacked recklessly, ignoring defense completely. He threw himself at with wild, desperate strikes. He took hits he should have avoided because they let him get closer. Was confused. This was not how duels worked. Where was the elegance, the strategy, the respect for form? Did not care about form. He cared about winning. In 40 seconds, it was over. Lay on the ground, disarmed, with sword at his throat. The Lord was bleeding from 3 wounds. His perfect robes were torn and dirty. Was bleeding too. He had taken cuts to his arm and side, but he was standing. He had won. The arena was silent. No one could believe what they had seen. Removed his sword from his throat. Then he did something even more unexpected. He offered his hand to help his opponent up. "Good fight," he said simply. Stared at the offered hand. Rage and humiliation burned in his eyes. He slapped the hand away and scrambled to his feet, fleeing the arena in shame. Watched him go. He felt no satisfaction in victory. He had made an enemy today, a powerful one. But when he looked up at the royal platform, he saw Empress smiling. It was the first time he had seen her smile. And beside her, Princess was crying with relief, not caring who saw. That night, a young handmaiden named came to his quarters. She was nervous, looking over her shoulder constantly. "I should not be here," she whispered, "but I had to warn you." "Warn me about what?" "Lord, he will not accept this defeat. He has powerful friends, dangerous friends." She pressed a small data crystal into his hand. "This contains information about the Void Syndicate. They were the ones who sent the assassins, and they are planning something bigger, something terrible." "Why are you telling me this?" Looked at him with something like wonder. "Because you are different. Because you actually care about the princess, not just her power. Because," she hesitated, "because you are the only one who might be able to save her." She left as quickly as she had come. Sat alone in his quarters, turning the data crystal in his hand. Outside his window, the beautiful towers of the palace glowed against the night sky. A storm was coming, he could feel it. And this time, he might not be able to protect the princess with just his body. He would need to be smarter, faster, better. He would need to become something more than human. The Festival of Eternal Light was the most sacred celebration in culture. For 1 week each year, the people remembered the founding of their civilization. Lights filled every street. Music played from every tower. The entire planet seemed to glow with joy and hope. It was the perfect time for an invasion. The attack came at midnight on the 3rd day of the festival. Void Syndicate warships appeared from nowhere, dropping out of hyperspace inside the orbital defense perimeter. They had inside help. Someone had given them the codes to bypass the detection systems. Within minutes, the sky above the capital was filled with fire. Was with the princess when the first explosions hit. They were in the palace gardens, watching the festival lights, talking about nothing important. Then the world turned to chaos. "We need to move," said Grabbing's hand. "Now." They ran through corridors filled with smoke and screaming. Royal guards fought desperately against syndicate soldiers who seemed to be everywhere. Bodies lay on the beautiful floors, silver blood mixing with the light of shattered crystals. Empress met them in the central hall. She was calm despite the chaos, her presence commanding even in crisis. "The palace is lost," she said. "We must evacuate to the emergency ships." "Mother, I will not run." His voice was steady, but her hands shook. "This is our home." "This is not about courage, daughter. This is about survival." The Empress looked at, "Human, you will protect her, get her to safety, whatever the cost." "I will." They moved through secret passages that had never known existed. The princess guided them, knowing the hidden paths from childhood games. Behind them, the sounds of battle grew closer. The emergency ships were in an underground hangar beneath the Temple of First Dawn. But when they arrived, they found the syndicate had gotten there first. Soldiers surrounded the hangar entrance. Behind them, could see the escape ships burning. There was no way out. Empress made a decision. I will distract them. You take my daughter and find another way. Mother, no. This is not a request. The Empress touched her daughter's face with surprising tenderness. I have ruled for 2,000 years. That is enough, but you are the future. You must survive. She walked toward the Syndicate soldiers, head held high, every inch an Empress. They turned their weapons toward her, pulled away as the fighting started. They ran through the Temple of First Dawn, a place sacred to the Four. Ancient statues watched them pass. Prayers carved in stone seemed to whisper in the darkness. They could not escape, knew this. The entire planet was surrounded. The Syndicate had planned perfectly. There was nowhere to go. But they could hold out. They could survive long enough for help to arrive. He found a defensible position in the innermost chamber of the temple. One entrance, high ground, plenty of cover. If he was going to die, this was a good place for it. Stay behind me, he told. No matter what happens, stay behind me. Her voice was thick with tears. You cannot fight them all. I can try. Footsteps approached, lots of them. The Syndicate had found them. A tall figure entered the chamber first. He wore the ornate armor of a Syndicate commander. His eyes were cold. The princess, he said, and her pet human, how touching. Leave, said, his voice was calm. Leave now and you live. The commander laughed. You are outnumbered 50 to 1. You are wounded, you are exhausted, and you think you can threaten me. I think I am going to kill you, whether the odds matter or not. The commander's laughter died. Something in his eyes made him pause. This human was not afraid. This human was ready to fight. Why? The commander asked. Why do you care? You are not, this is not your world, not your people. Why die for them? Thought about the question. He thought about everything that had brought him here. The bar on station. The first time smiled at him. The 3 months of insults and training and slow acceptance. The feeling of belonging somewhere for the first time in his life. Because she asked me to stay, he said. That is reason enough. The commander shook his head. Humans, so emotional, so irrational. He raised his hand. Kill him. The soldiers attacked. Fought like a man possessed. He fought like every human who had ever faced impossible odds and refused to surrender. He fought with everything he had and everything he was. They shot him, he kept fighting. They stabbed him, he kept fighting. They broke his bones, he kept fighting. 11 minutes. For 11 minutes he held the entrance to the inner chamber alone. Bodies piled around him. His blood covered the ancient stones, but he did not fall. When the reinforcements finally arrived, led by Commander and a fleet that had broken through the Syndicate blockade, they found something impossible. Park was still standing. He was covered in blood, most of it his own. He could barely see from the swelling on his face. His left arm hung useless at his side. He had wounds that should have killed him 10 times over. But he was standing, and behind him, untouched, Princess was alive. The last Syndicate soldiers fled. The commander tried to run but caught him. One hand around the throat, one final squeeze. Then the strength left his body, fell. Caught him before he hit the ground. She held him in her arms, crying, begging him to stay awake. You did it, she sobbed. You saved me again. That is my job, he whispered. His voice was barely audible. Princess. Do not call me princess. Call me, please. He smiled. Blood stained his teeth. That is a beautiful name. Stay with me, please stay. Medical teams rushed in. They worked desperately to save him. Against all odds, they succeeded. 1 year later, the Void Syndicate was destroyed. The traitors in the court had been found and punished. Lord had been among them, and he would spend the rest of his very long life in prison. Empress had survived her distraction, wounded badly but alive. She ruled still, though she had begun preparing to take her place. And in the palace gardens, beside a river of light, walked with He was no longer her bodyguard. That role had ended months ago, but he had not left. The Empress had given him a choice, and he had chosen to stay. Now he was something else, something they had no word for. The humans called it partner, beloved. They did not touch in public. The court was still adjusting to the idea of a human in the royal circle. But when they were alone, held his hand like it was the most precious thing in the universe. "My mother asked me something today," said. "What?" "She asked if I was happy." Looked at her. In the soft light she was beautiful beyond words, but it was not her beauty that had captured him. It was her kindness, her curiosity, her loneliness that matched his own. "What did you tell her?" Smiled. It was the same smile that had changed everything. A year ago on a space station, when she looked at a human mercenary and saw a person instead of a pest. "I told her yes." High above them, Empress watched from her balcony. She thought about the day she had demanded the human stay. She had done it for honor, for debt, for tradition. She had not expected this. But watching her daughter smile, watching her laugh with the human who had bled for her again and again, the Empress understood something new. Humans lived such brief lives. 80 years, 100 if they were lucky, nothing compared to the of the. But in those brief years they burned so bright, they loved so fiercely, they fought so desperately for what mattered to them. They had forgotten how to do that. In their endless lives, they had lost the fire that made existence meaningful. Perhaps that was why humans had spread across the galaxy so quickly. Perhaps that was why they refused to die, refused to surrender, refused to accept limits. They were not greater than the, but they were different, and sometimes different was exactly what the universe needed. The Empress turned away from the balcony, leaving her daughter to her happiness. The human had earned it. He had earned everything. And somewhere in the vast galaxy, other humans were earning their places too, fighting impossible odds, protecting those who could not protect themselves, burning bright against the darkness. That was what humanity meant. Not perfection, not elegance, not long life or great power. Just the stubborn, beautiful, impossible refusal to give up. No matter the cost,